Often when talking about aging in place, we're talking about empty nesters. Your children are moved out, and now you might need some additional accessibility, or maybe you want to downsize your home, and are you going to be able to stay in the same area where you're used to the same community amenities? But we're always aging, so a well-designed community is actually good for people from 0 to, I don't know, 120, however old people are getting nowadays. And today we're going to talk about the younger ages. To help me do this, I'm bringing on a guest, my older sister, Jerica. How would you describe your phase of life?
I am 29 years old. I have two little kids, one preschooler, one baby, and I do not currently work. I
Okay.
love good food. Is that part of my phase of
I think
life?
that's part of your phase of life. Throughout the conversation, I'm going to interject and see how Town, a community I visited in a previous video, and the community that Jarek and I grew up in, compares to her needs and wants as a mother of two small children and as an individual 29-year-old woman. Okay, describe to me your ideal neighborhood. What kind of things do you have access to? How do you get to those things? What kind of home do you live in? Describe all of that.
My husband and I have actually been thinking a lot about this lately since purchasing our first home. We've kind of discovered that while we value having an outdoor space attached to our home, we don't need it to be a yard. Probably would just prefer a patio. So I think like our ideal home is more of a townhouse with a good sized patio so that we can still enjoy being outside close to home. Maybe while kids are sleeping, we can just be right there. Our ideal neighborhood would have playgrounds, at least one that is walkable from our house, and then good restaurants. So we love eating out, we love trying new foods, and so having good restaurants nearby would be a huge bonus for us.
Okay, let's see. Jarek is looking for a townhome. Here's a map of the townhomes in Town. She also mentioned that playgrounds were important. On this map, I've marked all the playgrounds in the area. And as far as restaurant choices, you have a variety of sit-down and fast food options, including Brewster's, Famoso, Golden National, Dairy Queen, Smashburger, and Haru, among others. What what do your kids need? Like what do you have to take them to? What are their needs, and what would you love to see in a closer proximity to you, or what is in a close proximity versus what for you is out of that range?
Definitely the playground is a huge one. My daughter is always asking to go to the playground. And I know she doesn't care about the filthy
Hmm.
playground, but I care about having to bathe my children every single time we come back from the playground. So, and and there's like not a whole lot to it either. So probably for her, she probably would prefer a playground with more slides and more like just more to it and swings and things like that. I think something else that would be really important is somewhere safe for them to ride their bikes.
Hmm.
Um, I would want for them a bike path through some trees, just a really nice like bike path or walking path or something where we can go and like be away from the houses and safely exercise
Hmm.
out there and be able to like cool off in the shade of the trees would be really nice. Another thing that is high on my list for when we move someday is a splash pad. The few times that we've driven to a splash pad or gone to one like while we're on vacation, my daughter has really enjoyed that. So I think that that would be something important for her in a future neighborhood.
For her kids, Jerica is looking for bike paths, a place where they can go out and enjoy safely, away from cars. Now, Town doesn't have any bike lanes, but kids are allowed to ride on the sidewalks here. And there are also a couple of ponds with multi-use pathways going all the way around them. And as far as a splash pad goes, yep, Town has one of those too. Also, one thing that I know we've talked about is accessing medical needs. Because babies, when you have
Mhm.
a baby, they need to go to the doctor a lot. Not necessarily even if something bad happens. And also postpartum, you need to go to the doctor a lot. And
Mhm.
so, what has
Yep.
been your experience where you're living with being able to access those necessities for both you and for your babies?
So, in my experience right now, I guess for context, we live in a small town. That's about 10,000 people outside of a large city of about like 1 million. So we don't have a hospital in our town. And I drive up to a neighboring town that's about 15 minutes for our pediatrician. And I absolutely love our pediatrician. Like,
Hmm.
I I would probably still drive like half an hour to her.
Yeah,
Because when you find a good one, you want to stick with them.
yeah.
And so that's okay, like, the 15-minute drive up there is fine, and then for my personal care, postpartum, and prenatal, I was driving, oh gosh, like 40, 45 minutes to get to, my doctor's appointments,
Wow.
and it was a 45-minute drive to the hospital to deliver my baby. So, and there were like, I mean, prenatal care, there were other options that were closer to us, but that office was also close to my husband's work. And
Mm.
so I decided to stay with that doctor because then he was able to quickly jump over to an appointment and then jump back to work. So that was more important to us that he didn't spend so much time driving to the appointments.
Okay, so are there doctors in Mackenzie Town? Because this is a pretty important aspect of building a community for aging in place. We need doctors at all phases of life. And yes, actually, there are two doctors' offices. That said, I don't think either of these doctors' offices are specifically pediatricians, but there is a hospital nearby. Now, to get to the South Health campus is a 10-minute drive, 22-minute bike ride, 35-minute transit ride, or an 80-minute walk if you want to go that route. But I don't recommend that in an emergency. And once the Green Line is built, oh boy, once the Green Line is built, it'll only be 2 stations away. The Green Line, Calgary's new train line that should have been built 10 years ago, but I'm glad they've at least started construction. As you look at your kids getting older
Mhm.
and then going off to school, what does that situation look like where you live, and what do you think would be more ideal?
Yeah. So, right now, we actually, our daughter is going to the elementary school nearby. And so it's actually really handy. We live close to the elementary school. We're probably the most walkable people who attend at that school, but there is not a full sidewalk to a
Mm,
single neighborhood from the elementary school. So, not a single child who attends that school has sidewalk access all the way to the school.
no one.
Not a single child.
Wow.
Yeah,
And so, like a sidewalk is such a simple thing. Like you don't think of
it
that
really
as
is.
infrastructure because it's nothing. It's like, yeah, you just put a sidewalk there, right? Is it
Yeah,
that
yeah.
hard to do? Yeah, so that's really disappointing and frustrating. What percent chance would you give of ever letting your child walk to school there?
Absolutely not.
Zero. 0% chance.
No,
Really.
no.
If there were sidewalks.
Honestly, I mean, for us, like, we have the closest to having a full sidewalk, and the spot where we don't have sidewalk is a side street that
Mhm.
is very quiet.
Right.
So, like, I personally wouldn't have an issue, like, walking my child to school
Mhm.
because I would be there on that side street with her, but we also would have to cross a four-laned highway, so it's like, I mean, it's like 2 and 2,
Mhm.
and it's pretty fast, like, the speed limit's pretty fast there. There is a light, so we could cross at the light, but I've noticed that, like, drivers out in our town just do not pay attention at all to pedestrians. So, no, I would not feel comfortable letting her even in, like, well, the school only goes up to, like, grade 5, I think. So, yeah, even, like, grade 5 would be kinda iffy for me.
Now, how does Mackenzietown stack up on the school front? Well, actually, pretty good, I'd say. Mackenzietown School is a public school that runs from kindergarten to grade 6. St. Albert the Great School is a Catholic school for kindergarten to grade 9. And Mackenzie Highlands School, the one with the cool scooter parking from the previous video on Mackenzietown, is a public school serving grades 4 through 9. This leaves only high school students unable to walk to school. So actually, things are looking pretty great for Mackenzietown. To wrap up, I want to showcase that Mackenzietown is great for other ages. Real quick, we've got a 55 plus living space, we have some senior care homes, and some other facilities for aging people. My grandpa Fred actually spent the last little bit of his life in this area. We were able to walk down to the grocery store with him, pick up some chocolate. His favorite was Aero bars, and we'd sit in this park and spend time in the company of family. A well-designed community doesn't just introduce you to new and interesting things and people, it also helps you develop and maintain a familiarity with the people and places you love. Thanks for watching. Last note, there are also many apartments in the area, and many of the homes here have carriage suites, which adds to the diversity and availability and affordability of housing in the area. Now, if only we could get that train built, and maybe add some apartments to the park and ride too.